When they started playing Canadian records, they started building a real Canadian industry.
In bars from Duncan to Dartmouth, the blues hold sway on Saturday night. But a few groups wind up on the national stage thanks to new CanCon regulations ensuring critical airplay on FM radio. Some of the first blues heroes are Whiskey Howl and Crowbar.
The pop music thing was kind of on the way out. Blues and rock were combining in the early 70s, and people were enjoying those long songs.
When Toronto's Luke and the Apostles lose their guitarist, it spawns another formidable blues band as Mike McKenna joins forces with Joe Mendelson to form the mighty Mainline.
Mainline did a record in '72 called the Bump and Grind Review that incorporated elements of burlesque with elements of blues.
So that was the event. The big setup was, we're going to see Mainline where? At the Victory Burlesque?
In a notorious move, Mainline, with some of its members dressed in drag, share the stage with a bevy of burlesque performers at Toronto's Victory Theatre.
And there's you that I would call equal. Just like you and us. Yes, he's got brain damage.
Mendelson Joe has made a bazillion records, completely disregarded, I think, now as a musician, and shouldn't be. Incredible songwriting, fantastic original guitar playing, original things to write songs about. He writes songs about things that nobody else writes songs about. Lick and Sniff, The One You Love. Who else has a song called Lick and Sniff, The One You Love?
Downchild were popular in Halifax and we're popular in Vancouver. That song Flip, Flop, and Fly was a big hit all across the country.
Flip, flop, and fly. I don't care what I flip, flop, and fly.
Jane Busey would turn up early for the Downchild Blues Band sessions, and I would do secret recordings of Jane before Downchild heard it. And she's one of my favorite piano players ever.
You know, we had a hit record and the rest is geography. We were across the country back and forth for years.
Here comes my baby, flashing a new gold tooth. Here comes my baby, flashing a new gold tooth. Well, she's so small she can marble in a payphone booth. I flip, flop, and fly. I don't care what I flip, flop, and fly. I don't care what I don't ever leave me, don't ever say goodbye.
I got a call from my record company saying that the Blues Brothers wanted to do our songs, Shotgun Blues, and I Got Everything I Need Almost, on their album. Once that album was out and those songs were on it, and it just took right off. And the album sold 3 million anyway, so that was excellent.
One of the most commanding figures on the Canadian blues scene is Dutch Mason, a native of Lunenburg, Nova Scotia. Although he passed away in 2006, his legend lives on.
Dutch fell in love with the blues on hearing it. He said to himself, this is me, this is it, this is what I'm going to do the rest of my life, and he made that decision just like that, and he went there and he never went anywhere else.
And Dutch, he was one of those guys who had no affectations at all. What you saw was Dutch Mason. And I think that's the thing that really drew people to him.
I never saw him play live, but I heard all of his records, and whenever you'd play, you'd finish a show and someone would go, hey, you heard of Dutch Mason? And they'd tell you all about it.
I think I'll move down to Florida. I'm going to Florida on the train. I think I'll move down to Florida. I'm going to Florida on the train. You know I got to see you one more time. Why you driving me insane? Tell the truth.
Dutch Mason was an excellent guitar player. Played a lot like B.B. King, very sparse, very good tone.
He was the first blues guy and the top blues guy in this part of Canada, without a doubt. And everyone kind of emulated Dutch when it comes to the blues, and he taught us all a lot.
And he had that stately air on stage like he was holding court. All the musicians gathered around him. He brought the best out of them. And it reminded me of when I saw Muddy Waters at the Colonial, the way he sat down with that regal air. And everyone loved Dutch Mason.
The most flamboyant of all Canadian blues pickers is David Wilcox.
He developed a real onstage personality that was quite unique.
In his early incarnation, David Wilcox had this fabulous Salvador Dali mustache.
When I first met him, he was playing on the Ian and Sylvia TV show.
And then when David started his own band, especially his second band, David Wilcox and the Teddy Bears, there were lineups around the block. People loved it.
Radio play that sweetie richie ditty. Hot, hot popper. Yeah, hot, hot popper. No, 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 no. But don't ask how much it costs. He can float like a cow and sting like a wasp. Oh, hot, hot popper. With the hot, hot popper. And I ooh, and I yeah.
David Wilcox is one of the most outside players that you're going to find. He is a guy that does guitar stuff that only he thinks of.
I've worked with David myself. He's played in some of my records. He's a really eccentric songwriter.
He's got a lot of really good songs. I think he's underestimated as a songwriter and more known for being a blues guitar player and a really good one.
And I and I and I yeah.
David, incredibly gifted, and at one time, his trio was the biggest earning bar band in the country.
I love so many guitar players in this world, but if somebody said you have to pick one who's your favorite, for over 30 years, David Wilcox is the guy for me. He's the one who's shone so much light on how great playing guitar can be.
With a big bluesy horn-heavy sound, the Powder Blues Band, led by guitarist Tom Lavin, blows out of the West Coast to become one of Canada's hottest new acts.
When I first moved to Vancouver, I went to the Commodore to go see the Powder Blues. Yeah, they were big, I mean, they won the first Handy Award out of the States for a blues band.
I remember seeing Powder Blues and being kind of blown away by the bluesiness of it, really, because there wasn't a whole lot of, no one was really talking about the blues back in the 80s.
Do it right. The blues band's cooking and the drummer burning down. Doing it right on the wrong side of town. I know a place on the wrong side of town. The blues band's cooking and they're getting on down. Saxman playing like his soul's on fire. Moving like a rumor on a telephone wire. Rev up the Chevy, put your gas foot down. They're doing it right on the wrong side of town. Doing it right.
We recorded our own record. I took it everywhere. No record company wanted it. They said the blues wouldn't sell.
But Tom's a pretty wily guy, and I said, Tom, what's it going to cost you to go and press that thing yourself? He didn't want to say anything. He said, okay, bye. And that was it. I think you ran to the pressing plant, got that thing pressed up.
We sold about 30,000 in Vancouver out of the back of the station wagon. And then the record company started thinking, this is interesting.
And that first record went on to enormous success. I think it might have been 500,000 records, something huge. It's a great record.
Doing it right. Doing it right. The blues band's cooking and the drummer burning down. Doing it right on the wrong side of town.
Offenbach was great music, pure rock and roll.
own blues, gutsy rock feel.
Calling the blue blues, calling the blues folk after shoes. I know my second guy, J.D., but rose and low swine, she shall teach you.
I remember one night we were coming out in Old Montreal from Hotel Iroquois, the Led Zeppelin. They were in town, and we were all together, you know. And he was singing Colin the Blues on the street, you know. So Colin the Blues, Folkers me pousse were biggest hits at the time.
And the blues voice imprinted itself very deeply on French Canadian music as well. It's still to this day that gravelly blues voice.
Blind from an early age, Jeff Healey develops an extraordinary, if unorthodox, virtuosity to become one of the world's most celebrated guitarists.
Jeff Healey, he used to come down and sit in the Grossman's. Just when he was starting out, everybody was just amazed, you know, at his playing. His technique was so different. And
He was so masterful, and he had so many chops, but I always felt like when he was young, it's like anyone else. There's too much to say. And he's become absolutely a masterful and world-class musician.
I don't think anyone could come away from watching him play without being just staggered, you know. It's pretty amazing.
Canada's fast-rising guitar star is Colin James, a young kid from Vancouver by way of Regina and Winnipeg.
The meeting with Stevie was when things really started escalating, because he took me on the road in the States and got back off the road with Stevie, found a band and went to it and recorded with Bob Rock, who at the time, you know, he's just out of Rock and Hide. I don't think he hadn't done any of those big, huge rock records yet, you know. And I think we got him for a song, I think. Well, literally 2 songs. And 5 long years and Why'd You Lie, yeah.
Very first rule that you learn at school is that you shouldn't try to fool the people you're close to. And now you're finally full grown. I really should've known, but if I left you on your own, you wouldn't do like you're supposed to. Why'd you lie?
I think Colin really put that song on the map. My version was kind of a lighter, kind of faster tempoed version. Colin really got into it and put a lot of soul into it.
Someone pointed the song out to me, and we sat and listened to it. I think it had a horn section on his version, and but boy, I'm so glad we did it.
He reminds me of B.B. King in a lot of ways because he plays geometrically on this fret. He plays in this one rectangle over and over and over again, and I always respect guys who do that. But the thing that impressed me most about him were his vocals. He doesn't need the flashy guitar. He just his voice exudes enough energy in itself.
There's one thing that I got to say now, all about calling in another base bed. Why'd you lie, baby?